So this is part of it as well. The nation, obviously, in a state of heightened sensitivity in the wake of Charlottesville, but it's prompting the question of where does all of this stop? Just a couple days ago, in the dead of night, a statue of Chief Justice Roger Taney was removed from the Maryland State House. Taney ruled against the restriction of slavery in the Dred Scott case. No doubt a low point in our nation's history. Our next guest says his removal opens the door to erasing all kinds of historic figures that could, in effect, sanitize our history. Jonathan Turley is a constitutional law attorney, and he joins me now. Jonathan wrote an excellent piece today as well on this. Jonathan, tell us why you think Taney deserves sort of a broader understanding here.
Well, I think that the broader understanding has to be how we evaluate history. The Dred Scott decision is a mark upon the entire nation, as is the Civil War, as is slavery. And he clearly played an important part in that, an ignoble part. But 7 justices signed on to that opinion, and there are plenty of opinions throughout history that we now consider to be deeply wrong and troubling. You know, Buck v. Bell was a decision where Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the most celebrated justices, said that citizens could be involuntarily operated on so that they could be sterilized, so they could not have children. Louis Brandeis signed on to that decision, as did the majority of justices. Are we going to start to take statues down, our memorials, when we object to those decisions? We had the decision in Bowers v. Hardwick, which was 5-4, which said that homosexuality could be criminalized. Today, many of us view that decision, I did at the time, as deeply wrong and troubling. Sandra Day O'Connor signed off on that opinion. Do we take those memorials down? So the question is, are we really going to move to remove those monuments to justices who ruled in ways that we now find quite troubling? Or are we going to add to those memorials information, like was being done at the Jefferson Memorial, that there will be an addition placed in the Jefferson Memorial saying that he was a slave owner? And that is one of the great contradictions of Thomas Jefferson.
It's a great point, because, you know, in many ways, adding to these monuments is what becomes more of a history lesson. And you know, you think about the Taney decision in Dred Scott, which, as you point out, when you read the language of it, is, you know, it's obviously from a very different era, and it's reprehensible in its approach to the people of this country. However, you also pointed out that we probably wouldn't have had the Civil War without the Dred Scott decision. So these are the moments in history that push forward the steps that bring us and our evolution to where we are.
Yeah, and Taney's words are deeply upsetting. Even at the time, there was a dissent in that case that redeemed the court to some degree. Taney actually viewed it as a states' rights issue, as did obviously virtually all the other justices on the court. He himself freed his slaves and gave pensions to the slaves that he inherited. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't a racist. He did not join the South. He stayed with the North during the Civil War. He was viewed, however, by Abraham Lincoln as one of his opponents. And all that creates this mix of history that's not easily divided between heroes and villains. But we can learn a lot from it. You know, this statue was there for 150 years. I actually think that kids could learn a lot more by going to that statue and saying, this is someone who wrote something that was terribly wrong.
Yep, we learn from the mistakes of the past and the complicated history that brought us to where we are today. Jonathan Turley, thank you so much. Good to see you as always.